Hello, everyone. So I am jumping onto this live today to talk about your subconscious mind and how your subconscious beliefs can be blocking you, and to understand this in a little bit more detail. I'm going to talk about firstly the difference between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, the traits of the subconscious mind, how we can figure out how it is blocking us, and how to overcome these blocks. So to begin with, the conscious mind, it is widely known, so I'm sure you may have heard this before, governs 5% of our mental processes. And the subconscious mind governs 95% of our mental processing. So what does this mean? The 5% of the conscious mind is logical thinking. It is critical thinking. So logical thinking, our ability to analyze; critical thinking, our ability to judge and problem solve. It is our willpower, our ability to do things and to drive things forward, and short-term memory. So that is the conscious mind. The subconscious mind, the 95% of the subconscious mind, this is our values and our beliefs. This governs our long-term memory. The subconscious mind also, sorry, I'm just having, it is governing, yes, our intuition, our habits, our values and beliefs, and our emotions, as well as our long-term memory. So if you're jumping on here, I'm talking about today how our subconscious mind, how the beliefs in our subconscious mind can limit us and block us without us even knowing. So 95% of our subconscious mind, or 95% of our mental processing, is our subconscious mind. And really what that means is that 95% is happening on habitually, like on autopilot, on automation, I should say. So a little bit more about the subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind is so incredibly intelligent. I've actually got a stat here. It is so incredibly intelligent. It's estimated to handle up to 11 million bits of information per second, which is insane. Is estimated to handle up to 11 million bits of information per second. So the subconscious mind is incredible. It is always on. So since the moment we have been born, the subconscious mind is always filing away information, like it's absorbing information through our senses, and it is filing away what it thinks we don't need, and in that moment, and it is storing memories from our whole lifetime, and it is showing us what it thinks we do need, or storing away what things that it thinks we do need. So the most important thing really to know about the subconscious mind is that its sole purpose is our survival. The sole purpose of the subconscious mind is our survival. And this is important because the subconscious mind does not care if we are happy. It does not care if we are thriving. All it cares about is our survival. And it's important to note that because it can take things really literally when the conscious mind doesn't. And this is how we can get stuck in patterns, or not even stuck in patterns, like not see things that we are believing subconsciously that is stopping and blocking us from acting certain ways, or reaching out for certain things, or growing really in our lives, in whatever area of our life that is. So what else? The subconscious mind. Okay, so what I mean by taking things literally, if you are watching a scary movie, which I cannot do these days anymore, but I used to love to when I was younger, but I wish I didn't. So whenever you watch a scary movie in your lifetime, number one, your subconscious mind records that. It records that. But the problem with that is it thinks it's literally happening to you. So if you're sitting and watching a scary movie, your physiology, your subconscious mind will cause your physiology to respond as if it is happening to you in that moment. So your stress response will be triggered, your amygdala gland will be going crazy, and you are going to be in a state of stress and alert. So that is what's happening. You consciously know it's not real and you're watching a scary movie, but your subconscious thinks it's real and is responding to something that might jump at you. So it's taking things literally. It also can't differentiate between what you are visualizing in your mind and whether it's real or not real. So I think a really good example, like if you are, fantasizing about something, and a great example is if you're fantasizing about something sexual, let's say, the body will respond to that. So you might just be imagining the scenario, but the body will respond to that. Same as well if you are imagining something scary. So I was really scared of the dark when I was young, and I carried this into adulthood as well. And then your imagination, but particularly when I was younger, would go wild. And I remember when I first moved up to the countryside, it was so dark, so dark. And your imagination suddenly will go wild, and that will create your body to respond in that way. So suddenly if you're afraid, like, oh, is anyone out there? I can't see anything. Your body, your subconscious mind is doing that, is causing that to keep you safe. So we come back to the sole purpose of the subconscious mind is to keep us safe. And the issue that we have with that is that it takes things literally. So if you are visualizing something in your mind, it is thinking that is happening to you. It is thinking it is not safe. Or if there is a scenario happening that is perfectly safe but is mirroring something in the past, then it will tell you it isn't safe. Another thing, the subconscious mind lives in the present moment. It lives in the present moment. And so when you command it to do things, it doesn't listen to commands with no and not. So as an example, if you are going to say to yourself, I am not going to eat junk food today, it doesn't understand that. It will resist that. But you need to say things that you're moving towards, not things that you're moving away from. So, for example, I am going to eat healthy food today, right? So that's the intention. I am going to eat healthy food today. It's in the present moment. I am going to eat healthy food today, rather than saying something like, I am not going to eat junk food. So it's in the present moment, and it wants to move towards the thing. It wants clear direction in the present tense. And I love this fact. So your current reality is a projection of your subconscious mind. Your current reality is a projection of your subconscious mind. And you might be like, okay, yeah. And I was a bit like that at first. I was like, okay. But then stripping that back, it's like, right, where you are right now in life, wherever that is, personally, at work, whatever it is because of your subconscious mind. It is so powerful. So we can consciously make decisions, but we can get fatigued. Our prefrontal cortex, which is the conscious part, the logical part, the thinking part, can get fatigued if it's constantly rubbing up against subconscious beliefs. Okay, so how do we discover what is limiting us in the subconscious mind? How do we discover what is limiting us in the subconscious mind? So a great thing to do is to figure out what it is that you want. What it is that you want. So figure out what it is that you want and really get clear on that. Because when you get clear on what it is that you want, you then can get clear on what it's rubbing up against, right? So, for example, for myself, I know when I wanted to move my business online, I wanted to do this more. I wanted to get live on social media more. I wanted to run masterclasses. I wanted to grow my community. I wanted to find my community, find my niche. There was so much stuff that I wanted to do. So in order to do that, I had to question why I wasn't doing that yet. So we have to question, like, why am I not there yet? Why am I not doing this now? And when I question that, like, why am I not doing this now? And not only that, why do I not really want to do it? Why is it feeling uncomfortable? Consciously, I want to do it. Consciously, I want to do these things. Consciously, it should be easy. But something is driving the force behind that conscious awareness that is causing resistance and friction and me not wanting to do it. So when I dug a little deeper into this and questioning, like, why do I find this challenging? Like, why is it challenging to go, well, why did it used to be challenging to do something like this, go live on social media, to be seen. And loads of stuff came up, the fear of falling flat on my face, the fear of judgment, so many fears, so many mindsets that no one's going to listen, no one's going to care, all this stuff would come up as to why I didn't want to do it. And then these were mainly mindset stuff, like lack mindset stuff, narratives, what if narratives I was telling about myself. I can't do it, I'm not going to be able to talk for that longer period of time, etc., etc., etc. Loads and loads of fears came up. And then once I understood these fears, I then asked myself, like, what is driving this? What is driving this? And two key memories came up for me, which I've spoken about lots before, but two key memories came up for me. One when I was about 7 or 8, and one at 14. And these two key memories, these two situations, helped me or led me to build a core belief that I wasn't smart enough, that I was not smart enough. And so once I figured out what was driving this feeling of not wanting to show up online, not wanting to do stuff like Insta Lives or whatever I'm doing, presenting was another big thing. Once I figured out what was the core belief driving that, I could start to rewire that. So it became a different belief, a belief that suited me. But firstly, there are other things as well. I've done this with so much stuff. So your wants, as an example, when you figure out what you want, it could be things like to feel sexy in my body, or it could be things like to be a present mother, to eat slowly. It could be to learn to drive. I don't know. It could be so many things. To learn to feel comfortable around old friends. Whatever it is that you want, it can be really small. It does not have to be big things. But when we figure out what we want, this is a way to lead us to what is sitting in our subconscious mind. And it's so fascinating. Like, when you start to do this and learn how to do this, you can really start to apply this to so much stuff that is happening in your life, so much discomfort that is happening in your life where you want to create a positive change or a different programming, because the subconscious mind is our programming. Okay, so once you have your list of what it is that you want, thank you so much for tuning in. Once you have a list of what it is that you want, there are 3 things that you can do to help you uncover what is happening in the subconscious mind. So 1, you can do what I did with the lives, is simply close your eyes and ask yourself, when do I think in my life that I created this belief? When did I create this belief? Because everything is sitting in your subconscious mind. Every memory is in your subconscious mind. Everything is stored there, which is so incredibly mind-blowing. Everything is there, which is why in random moments in your life, a memory can pop into your mind when you need it. Or for some people, traumatic experiences are buried and then they pop up at later dates in their life. The subconscious mind will give you your information when you're ready for it, when you're asking for it, when you're ready for it, when you have that level of awareness. So ask yourself, when do I think that this started, this belief was imprinted on me? And you have to understand, like, we are not born with beliefs. We are not born with our beliefs. We are born as a blank slate, as a blank slate, a blank piece of paper, just in the energy of love, in the energy of bliss. That is how we are born. So things get imprinted on us, and they are always going to get imprinted on us by society, by family, by friends, by culture, by our life experience. And we learn and grow from our life experience. So it's our responsibility to question and to go back and to dig a little deeper. So you ask yourself, with that in mind, like, if I was not born with this, how was this belief imprinted on me? How is this belief imprinted on me? And see what comes up. Like, you'll be surprised. See what comes up. I just like to close my eyes, tune into my heart. Another way I love to do this is to journal. So when we write stuff down, and I'm really talking about to specific questions. So you would ask yourself a specific question. You know, something in direction to the want. So, do I recall in my life when I felt a certain way? Or is there a time in my life that where I shied away from this situation? For me, like public speaking, like, is there a time in my life where I was made to feel embarrassed or whatever it is? And then you write it down. And when we ask ourselves these questions and write it down, the subconscious mind is filing through all its memories and looking for the answer. Looking for the answer. And if you don't think you've come to the answer, you ask yourself another question. And again, the subconscious mind is going through all its memory, looking for the answer, and it will give you the answer. You write it down and you will come to the answer. And it could be more than one time. It could be several times, a few times. But the incredible thing is that normally it's not some big traumatic event. It might just be something that made us feel small or sad, or one of mine was getting my grade card and just feeling so disappointed that I only got 1A, and everything else, definitely a more CB student, everything else was lower down, and my best friend was getting straight A's, and that my subconscious mind just interpreted that I was not smart, I was not stupid, and I wasn't as an A compared to an A-star student, not in that way. I definitely blossomed a little bit later in life. Age 7 was not my academic peak. Okay, so another way. So you have closing your eyes, tuning into your heart and asking yourself. You have journaling to powerful questions. And then another way that you can do this, so you have the discomfort, you have the thing that you want to change, and you think about the 3 emotions around that discomfort, the 3 emotions around that. So with my example, it could have been anxiety, fear, and doubt, let's say. So then you ask yourself, like, what emotion do you think what past emotion of these do I think is linked to a past experience? If the other 2 ways aren't working for you, it's just another way. It's like, what past emotion is standing out for me that I think is linked to a similar past experience? And then again, you are open, you ask your subconscious mind, like, is there a memory linked to that feeling of anxiety? Like, when did I feel anxious as a little girl, a little boy? When did that feeling first occur for me? What created that? Or whatever the emotion is for you, it was born somewhere, it came out of some experience, multiple experiences across your lifetime. So get curious and dig a little deeper into that. Okay, and then a really interesting thing to ask yourself is, what am I benefiting from holding on to this? What am I benefiting from holding on to this? So for me, in my example around showing up live, public speaking, being seen, not doing it, I was benefiting from feeling comfortable. I was benefiting from not putting myself in a vulnerable position. I was benefiting from keeping my guard up. I was benefiting from not feeling nervous and anxious. Can you see how all these things that I was benefiting from were things that were keeping me safe, keeping me playing small? Like I said, the subconscious mind's sole purpose is to keep you safe. Doesn't care if you're thriving, doesn't care if you're happy, doesn't care if you feel fulfilled, doesn't care if you're repeating a negative pattern. It likes what is familiar. In fact, it will repeat negative patterns that are familiar because they know it is safe. They know that you survived in those patterns. It takes things so literally. Even though consciously you might think that pattern is bad for me, or I need to do this to grow my business, the subconscious mind doesn't care. It wants you to stay safe, the sole purpose. So this is what I mean by looking at your outside world to see how the subconscious mind is dictating your outside world. And the way to figure that out is, what is it that we want? What is it that we really want? And then what is the discomfort there? Because getting what we want is uncomfortable. Showing up differently creates us to do things differently. So let's talk about rewiring this. So once you've come to the core belief, you can begin to rewire this by talking to that version of you. Yeah, talking to that version of you, validating how that version of you felt, talking to that version of you and giving that version of you what it needs. Whether it's just to be seen and heard, whether it's to feel love, whatever it needs, but it needs to be validated, not ignored, and seen and heard. So, and that's going to be a process, right? It's not just going to be one time, it's going to be a process. And then you need to implant a new belief. So, whatever that new belief is. So, for me, it is safe to show up for myself. It is safe to be seen. It is safe to do Insta lives or to public speak. I am capable. I am smart enough. It is safe. So you start to imprint that new belief. And really, if we're going against my core belief in my example, it would be saying every time I felt the trigger, the resistance is, I am smart. I am capable. It is safe to be smart. It is safe to act from that place. So, and then every time the discomfort comes up, you need to repeat that. So the great thing about our minds, and as we know through neuroplasticity, is that we can rewire them. We created the patterns, we can recreate patterns. We might have created limiting patterns subconsciously. We can consciously create empowering patterns. We do this through recognition, repetition, consistency, determination, through showing up for yourself. But it is possible. It is possible. I've done it and I'm doing it all the time and it feels great, it's hard, it's uncomfortable. It can feel really uncomfortable and really sticky and really hard, but the other side can feel great. So another thing alongside of this, when you're rewiring the brain and changing a pattern, is you have to adopt an empowering and abundant mindset. You have to adopt an empowering and abundant mindset. And there's a few levels of this. This is talking to yourself in an empowering way, that internal dialogue, mastering that inner voice. It is celebrating yourself every time you do something, an action step towards that place. It is really every single day And there's a lot of work to be done around this, but just establishing the narrative that you want to lean into, because words are potent. Images in the mind are potent. And as I was talking about it at the beginning, the images in your mind that you are creating the feeling in the body. And then that feeling is driving your actions. So, and then the final step to this is to figure out the action steps, the small action steps that you can start to take. So when we have this new belief with this clear intention of what it is that we are moving towards, what it is we want to create, and these bite-sized actionable steps, growth really starts to happen. Or that is when we're moving towards manifestation, whatever you want to call it. That's when you are taking right and aligned action, and things will start to shift and change for you. But know that when we are doing this work and creating these new neural pathways in the brain, these new patterns in the brain, it takes time for the outside world to change. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, but it will happen. So we have to be patient, and we have to stay trusting that it's going to happen, because it will happen. And then you also have to choose to notice it happening. It's very easy because of how our brain is wired, the negative bias and the fear response and the programming of our subconscious mind. It is very easy not to see. So you have to consciously choose to see the wins and celebrate the wins, celebrate the tiny shifts. Okay, so let me just summarize the final bit. The subconscious mind is driving the show for many of us. We can consciously make decisions. We can consciously change things. So we use that part of us to turn this on to discovering things about the subconscious mind. We start with what it is that we want. Choose one thing. Have that as a vision. Do the inner work behind that. Why aren't you there now? Questioning what is stopping and blocking you. And you'll find actually there's a multiple beliefs that are there, and then probably a core belief that sits behind that. But there's multiple things that sit there. So get interested, get curious. And then once we get clear on that, figure out the new belief and begin to implant that alongside this empowering mindset, this abundant mindset, whilst celebrating yourself and taking action. And you will start to feel amazing, like growth and change. That is growth. That is what growth is. And if you follow me and are listening to this podcast, growth is probably something that you care about, that you want to lean into. You are curious. I know you're curious. I know you want to create positive change for yourself and transformation, and that is growth. So yes, I will put these questions in the notes so you have them, so you can sit down with your pen and paper and ask yourself the relevant questions that come up. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. It has been great to connect with you on this live.